very few people in the younger generations would even know what a Greek cafe is. If you say Greek cafe, they think a Greek restaurant, and these were absolutely not restaurants that sold Greek food. They had hamburgers, milkshakes, ice cream sundaes, toasted sandwiches, that sort of thing. Driven from their homelands by poverty or persecution, migrants came from all over Greece to forge a new life in Australia. And for many, this began behind a shop counter. They operated oyster saloons from the 1890s in cities and country towns in Queensland. Life would not be easy for those who followed, but for many, Australia was indeed a land of golden opportunity. The Australian icon known as the Greek Cafe rose from the ruins of a failing oyster industry during the 1910s. Over the next 4 decades, soda fountains and anodised milkshake cups entered our collective memory, along with timber cubicles, Laminex tabletops and Art Deco mirrors. The Greek Cafe offered meals at all hours, the food was cheap, and the menu was the same countrywide. It was the McDonald's of its time. Adapting to market changes and food trends, proprietors went on to run fish shops, fruit shops, ice cream parlours, sundae shops, milk bars, snack bars, confectionaries that dotted Queensland for much of the 20th century. Almost every town in Queensland had a Greek cafe. Most had multiple cafes, and up to 10 operated in larger towns during the 1930s, 40s and 50s. They're a really big part of the social fabric of Australia, but they also enable thousands of Greek migrants to become established here. And not just established, but integrated into their communities. They were community leaders, they were business leaders, they were a really important part of Australian culture. In the shops, often the proprietors anglicised their names, so Leandrakis became Londi because it was more like an Australian business name, and it was one that Australians could get their tongue around. The Greek Cafe is a shared chapter in the histories of 2 nations. It was a pathway to success for Greek migrants who arrived often as children with little money and even less English, and it was a community hub where Australians packed into cubicles to socialise over milkshakes and banana splits, mixed grills and roast dinners. The Greek migration story is the ultimate success story in terms of migration, because the Greek community is so well established right throughout Australia, and because their ancestors worked so hard in cafes, most of the 4th generation migrants now are doctors, lawyers, accountants, solicitors. The success of the Greek Cafe lies in the fact that there are no longer any Greek cafes. That's not the future that the early migrants saw for their children.